Hello, hello, I'm Abhinav Jindal, and welcome back to It's Wednesday, That's Why, a podcast made to inspire people from other founders' stories and learning what drives them and why they do what they do. Today on the hot seat, we have Vijitha Bahadhur, the founder of VijiBPhotography, who's a portrait photographer creating magazine style images for everyday person. Thank you so much for being here, Vijitha. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. I've known you for quite a while, and knowing your story, I wanted to get you on this podcast so you can share that with other people, and we can gain some inspiration from that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we know you're a portrait photographer, and you're amazing. I know
Thank you.
from personal experience, it's amazing to work with you, and the pictures you create are truly magnificent. How did you end up in photography?
Well, as a child growing up, I always loved photography. My dad had like this old Ricon film camera, and I used to take it with me to family events. And it became something I really loved because once I got the pictures processed, I noticed how people would just, their faces would light up when they see the pictures because they're remembering what had happened during that event or whatever I captured. So I really loved that reaction.
And how old were you back then?
I was about 9, 10 at the time.
Okay, so this has been a childhood friend.
Childhood friend, yes. And so I used that camera quite a bit. And then as I got older, I remember being in grade 9 and there was a grade 10 photography course in high school. So I took it. And that just opened me up because I learned film. I had learned how to develop film in the darkroom. So I really enjoyed it. But, I did come from immigrant parents.
Yeah.
And, obviously they want the best for you. And the arts wasn't a path that they thought would be, beneficial for me at the time. So it was always a hobby for me. So, I did what I did, which was go to school, take classes, get my degree. And then afterwards, photography, like I said, I had kids and I used to take pictures of the kids as they're growing up because I loved that. But then I got to a point in my life where I was kind of like, what I wasn't doing wasn't making me happy, and you get to a point where you have like these certain roles that, okay, I'm a mother, I'm a wife.
Yes.
And then as your kids get older, you're kind of like, who am I? What am I doing? Right? Yeah. And there's times I'd be like waking up going like, this can't be everything. This can't be my life. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're just repetitive. And yes. I felt like I didn't have a purpose. Like, sure, I was great at what I did. I worked in logistics. So I worked for someone else for a majority of my life, like all my life, literally. And yeah, it just came to the point where I was kind of like, what do I really want to do?
Yeah.
Right. And I remember my husband at one time, I would take all these magazines, photography magazines out, and I would read them at home. And he just said like, why didn't you ever do this?
Yeah.
Right. And I was like a grown adult at that time. Right. So I can't even say, my parents didn't want me to do it because, my father at that time had passed away too. And so I was kind of just like, I don't know why I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about it more and more. And it's funny because once you kind of open yourself up, things start coming in your path. And someone had introduced me to this photographer that I really started looking at her work. And I found out she was teaching. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to check this lady out. So I would watch her courses. And then she had a lot of free content on YouTube. And then I found out there's a platform called Creative Live, and she was having classes. And I don't know if I was so hung up on the money because I remember it was US dollars, a couple $100, and I was so hung up on the money. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it. And if I had not done that, I wouldn't be here today.
100%. We would have never met.
No, because that led me to really enjoy. I think it's the first time I've ever watched lessons or classes that I was just like, oh my God, like just learning so much.
Yes.
And interested in the content, right? So that just one thing led to another. And like just small little things I started doing, like, she would say practice. So I started practicing, built a portfolio.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a big aha moment for me. That didn't come. It wasn't like that for me. It was just small things.
Yes.
Right? Small little steps that I followed, and it sort of just started steering me in the right direction.
I think that's how it is. There's like small steps. That's what I realized in my own journey as well. That there's small steps that lead to a big aha moment, which is not about, I think what you have, but more about who you've become.
Definitely.
Going back to you mentioned, you were asking yourself, okay, at this point, who am I? I've raised these kids. They're doing good. My husband's good. I have a good relationship with them. And now I'm like, okay, who am I? And that's a very great question you ask yourself, because it doesn't matter what we have, but it does matter who we are and who we are willing to become and who we are actually. So that's amazing. And going back, you said learning was very exciting. I think I've been to a similar thing myself. I'm a kind of person who never wanted to study in school. Like, I'm like, what's the point of this? Marks? I'm like, come on, that doesn't do me any good.
Yeah.
So I took interest in subjects. I had interest in like science and maths and stuff like that. But history and geography, I've never touched them. I'm like, okay, that's not my thing.
Right.
But when I started doing business courses, I was like, oh my God, I never thought learning would be so much fun and so much easy to understand. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What makes you most passionate about photography?
For me, it's seeing people's reactions, especially once I started building that portfolio. I started asking my friends, hey, would you pose for me? Would you, come and do a session, right? Because I'm building. And one thing I didn't realize is how many people are so uncomfortable in front of the camera.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
There you go.
So, and I've been told, like, I'd rather go to the dentist than have my picture taken. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, you know what? I need to create a really safe space for people. And I love the fact when someone comes in, and I can see it once I'm working with people, how in the beginning they're a little bit tense. You can see it in their body language. But near the end, I always say, like, the last couple of the shots that I take are the best because people are relaxed. You know what I mean? They've got their guard down. You capture those amazing images. And I love when people come back to see it. The reveal is my favorite part.
Yeah.
Because I've had people cry. I've had people just be like, wow, oh my God, is that me? And I'm like, yeah, that's you.
Yeah, I never thought there was so much emotion attached with pictures. It's funny that you say, people are not comfortable in front of the camera. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I think it's, we're talking, and I've seen that, like, in front of me, people are talking. And as soon as I lift up that lens, they tense. Yeah. Because they know, in the past, maybe there's someone in their family, their friends, someone they've been out with that's taken a picture and it hasn't come out great. Yeah. Right? And so they take that image and they carry it with them, right? So it's like they carry it with them and then they tell me about it. And I'm like, well, they're not professionals. Yes. Right? As professionals, we understand lighting, we understand posing. We know how to try and get the best authentic view of this person in front of you, right? And so for me, I understand that energy now and I see it and I can feel it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right.
Do you think the perception that people have of who they are, of their identity, is something that holds back from them being comfortable in front of the camera?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And how do you ease into that process?
I talk to them about it. Right? So if I have a client, I'll ask them if they have any hang-ups about being photographed, if they've ever been professionally photographed, and we work through them. Yeah. Some people will say, oh, you know what, I'm not photogenic. Yeah. And I'm like, there's no such thing as being photogenic. There really isn't. Yeah. Right? So it's about capturing you at your best, being comfortable, what outfits that you wear, come to have a good time. That's what I always tell people. Leave the rest up to me, right? I guarantee you'll get an image of your best self.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? And if you don't pay me. Yeah. Right? That's my guarantee. I don't ask for anything up front, and I always tell people if you're not happy, then you don't pick the images.
What drives you to have so much confidence that you can give this guarantee to people?
Because I'm going to work with each and every one of my clients, and I want to get to know them. And I know that if I have them in front of my camera, that I can create that environment for them. So regardless of if you're celebrating a birthday or say you have a family session, you want to capture your family, or you're the face of your brand, you're an entrepreneur and you're a face of the brand. I want to help, even as an entrepreneur, I want to help you grow, right? I want to help you grow your business, thrive, and attract the people that are right for you. So how are we going to do that? What kind of image? What are you selling? What problem are you solving? Right? And we want to get that across in your images. So for me, it's about understanding exactly what my client wants and capturing that.
Okay, that's wow. What's your journey to getting to that point of confidence? Because that's not something that everyone has, and it's a truly remarkable skill. And like people say, okay, I have a money back guarantee, but you need to be really sure that you're going to pull that through before having that guarantee. And knowing you and working with you, I know you have that. But what's the journey of getting to that point where you are now?
Practice. Just, I mean, keep practicing so if I'm not with a client, I'm doing other creative things, right? For myself, trying things that are a little bit different, cutting edge, and I don't have like one way of doing my photographs because everyone is very different in terms of what they want, right? And so the skill of listening, right? When you listen to clients, when you listen to people, you can tell what sort of reservations they have, especially when it comes to taking pictures. Like some people will tell me, oh, I don't like the way my arms look, or, I don't like myself this way or sitting up, and so you just have to listen.
Okay.
Right? And for me, that's always worked. Being able to listen and getting people really comfortable, right? And making sure that they're at ease. And so that could mean putting on a great CD or music, right? Or creating an environment where, they feel safe, they've got the right clothing, and going through all that. Because I go through hair and makeup, I go through styling, I go through wardrobe, and I direct and pose every session.
Wow.
Right? So that a lot of people don't know how to stand or how to, where to put your hands and things like that. So it's something that I do, and I guide them every step. Okay. And that's what I want. That's exactly what helps most of the clients.
And why do all of this, Viji?
Because for me, it's about, I want you to walk away owning the best image that you've ever seen of yourself. And I know if I can do that for you, that puts a pep in your step. That makes, as a family, you're proud to present yourself, put beautiful wall art. As an entrepreneur, I know those images are going to help you sell, help you thrive and grow, and you'll be so much more confident. Right? And I love that. That's what I want my images to help you do.
Okay. And why is that so important to you? Clients walking away with those happy pictures.
Because at the end of the day, that helps them. Right? So I'm helping them, and that'll help their business, and then they'll use their skill set and their talent to help other people as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you do that?
I do it because it's something I enjoy doing.
Okay.
Right? And I know that, and it's funny because even when I was taking pictures, I'd be like showing people, and I'm like, so you guys can't take pictures like this? And they're like, no. They can't take. So sometimes you do these things that you love, and you don't realize that other people can't do them because it comes so easy to you. Right? So for me, it's like as soon as I get a client and they have reservations or things like that, I'm like, okay, this is great because now I get an opportunity to work with you and change the way you see yourself.
Okay.
And that to me is very fulfilling.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love it, how you went on a journey and then took that leap of faith, changed the turn, and now you're doing what you truly love and are passionate about.
Yeah.
How would you define, or is there a difference in in your life or in the perception of your identity of who you are while you were working a job before this and now that you're working and following your passion?
Definitely. I think there was a time when I was working in corporate that I just felt very restricted in my growth.
Mm-hmm.
I felt restricted in just in my attitude towards that work because I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
Right? And it eventually channels into everything.
Yes.
That, you're resentful, you feel like you don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
You're just like doing the same thing, and I'm getting older. So I was 48 when I left when I decided I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Right? So I made this life change later on in life. So you could say I was a late bloomer in that sense, right? But
you bloomed.
Right.
That's what is important,
And that's why, like, even when I meet younger people, I always tell them it's never too late. Yes. My daughter, for example, I enrolled her in a class, and it was an expensive class, and she's like, "Mom, it's expensive. Like, what if I don't like it?" Yeah. And I'm like, "That's okay." I go, "If you don't like it, you're still going to finish the class. Yeah. But at least that's one less thing you have to worry about." Right? Or think about, oh, what if? Yeah. Right? So I always, even with my kids, I tell them, like, follow your curiosity. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're curious about something, try it. Yes. And it's never too late. Yeah. Right? But again, I had all these beliefs when I was working in corporate. So a lot of my transition relied on me unlearning. Yeah. Right? Unlearning the things that I've been taught. Yeah. Right? And so when you start unlearning, I think, like I said, little things started coming into my life. People, yes. Opportunities, and I just was kind of like, I always think of that hell yeah, like, this if it's a hell yeah, you go for it. Yes, 100%. Right?
It's so important what you just said about unlearning what you have learned. When we are born, we're born in a society where you're taught everything and you've got a set life in front of you. You're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to do a degree. And there's so many things that we don't question that we do on an everyday basis just because that's how everyone thinks it's supposed to be, or that's how life is. Right. So it's very important to, I think, be curious and sometimes question on why are these things happening in the first place. Right. And see if you can be different, because I think when we give a set direction of life to a human, we kill that person's creativity. Yes. And by the time that child who's super creative and wants to go and like see the world and rule the world and like do whatever that child wants to do, by the time they're adults, they're told, oh, you can't do this because you don't have XYZ or ABC or EFG and stuff like that. True. And it's like all of that creativity is then blocked by objectivity and logic. Because now there's logic. As a child, you don't have no logic. You're like, okay, I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm free to dream whatever I can. I'm free to manifest whatever I am. But as an adult, now then logic and objectivity hits you, and then you're like, oh, I can do this, but I don't think I have the resources to do that. Right. And I think that's where we kill the limitation of humans growing and truly creating what their dream life is. Yeah. What's one advice you would want to give to anyone who is, 5 years ago where you were and is in a job which they don't like? Because there's a majority, like in America, that's 70%. 70% of the people hate their job. Right. Maybe, sometimes it's not like, okay, not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it could be that, oh, I have a job in, let's say, accounting, but really what I'm passionate about is art. So what stops you from going and getting a job maybe in art or start your own business in art if that's what you want? So what's one piece of advice you would want to give those people who don't like what they're doing right now? They feel restricted and stuck and they would want to, do something else, but they just don't have maybe enough faith in themselves or confidence that they can pull that through.
The first thing I would say is take some time, whatever this interest that you have, take some time to really look into it, right? And when I say look into it, whether it's find classes, find a community,
Yeah.
right? It's so important. And that's the one thing I've learned going from corporate to being an entrepreneur now.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest lesson I got is who you hang around with, who is sitting at your table is very important.
100%.
Very important,
Yes. Yes.
right? So especially when you have an idea of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when photography came into my peripheral, there's people I told who would laugh at me, who literally, and it was an honest laugh. Like it was like, are you ridiculous? You're going to do photography?
Yeah.
So being very careful who you tell. If you have that seed, like, oh, maybe I want to play guitar, or maybe I want to play piano, or whatever you want to do, I would recommend keep it to yourself for a while, right? Until you've done the research and said, okay, I'm going to take this lesson. Maybe I'll join this Facebook group. Whatever you want to do, take it, try it, see for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to go with it, then start finding people who have that same commonality, right? And make sure, you're around people who are kind, who are supportive, who are uplifting,
Yes.
right? It's community over competition.
100%.
Right?
Do you know an average person's income is 30% up or down with the people they hang with?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And that's
the average.
That's statistic data.
Yeah.
So it's very important to hang out with the right people because do you also know that a child, I think by the time they're about 14 years of age, they have heard 150,000 times they can't do it.
Right.
So you can't blame a child when they become an adult that they can't do it because all their childhood they've heard they can't do it.
Right.
By the time they grow up, they're like, oh, I really can't do it, I think. And if you're still hanging around with people who are telling you, you can't do it, then you're going to be like, oh, I keep hearing that, but there's going to be another set of people who in the same situation will tell you, oh, it's getting better, it's
Right.
improving.
Right.
And those are the people we all want to surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
For me, it's about serving. It's finding that purpose, whatever your strength or your passion is, and being able to fill a need in the world around you, right?
Yes.
So connecting, developing relationships, like that's really big for me.
Mm-hmm.
No like trust factor.
Yes.
Right? So it's a slow process, but at the same time, I enjoy every minute of it now, right? So it's you just need to remember that. It's like sometimes it takes a little bit of time before those people come to you. And the other thing is I have to be that person.
Yes.
Right? I have to be that person. It's an inside job. It starts from the inside, right?
100%.
So as long as you are that person, you will like attracts like.
Yes.
And I strongly believe that now because I was the opposite person at one time. And I didn't like where my life was.
Yes.
Right? I was miserable. I was like, why is this always happening to me?
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes you're just the same. And I'm like, at one point, you're just kind of like, okay, something has to change.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to get the same outcome over and over again until you do something different.
Yes.
Right? So that difference could just be like a little degree. I always think of a ship, right?
Yeah.
You just move in another direction and
yes,
how far,
100%.
Right?
That is so true what you said. I think identity transformation is the biggest skill set or the biggest transformation that we can really have in our life. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's not about what we have; it's about who we are,
right.
And identifying, what in my identity is not fulfilling me, and changing that with something that's fulfilling. I think that's true magic.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing all this stuff. Do you have anything else you would want to share with the audience today?
No, I just hope I think everyone is talented. I think we all have a talent. That's why we were put on this earth.
Yes.
And I hope a majority of people, more and more people, find out what that talent is because that way they can live a life of joy
Yes.
and have purpose serving other people. Because not everyone is you, and the world out there needs your talent.
Yeah.
Right? So I wish everybody luck, and I hope that on this journey, in this lifetime, that you're able to find it.
Yes, as Tony Robbins says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So, guys, please follow your passion, find out why you want to do what you want to do, and if it will really fulfill you. And it's never too late to start what you love doing. I hope you found today inspiration in today's podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Viji. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, hosting you, and having this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope you found some inspiration from today's story, because that's what we're all about, spreading inspiration one story at a time so that other people can find out why they want what they want, what drives them, and really be fulfilled in life. Thank you so much again. Be limitless today, and I'll see you next Wednesday.